Okay, so I made a mistake. I did not share my screen with you guys. So this is my screen that now. But the first one, so for those that were trying to follow along, I apologize. So I'll give you guys an example of what I did. So the first problem 3.5a, this is what my screen says. Stockholders invested $22,410 cash in exchange for common stock with the corporation. So for cash, we're going to debit the 22,410 because we issued common stock for that. So we're going to credit common stock 22,410. April 2nd, we hired a set receptionist for a salary of $467 per week. So we hired that person, but we haven't paid them yet. So there's not going to be an entry for April 1st. Then April 2nd, we paid rent. So we're going to, for the rent expense, we're going to debit that 1120 for rent expense, and then we're going to credit cash. And it looks like on April 3rd, we purchased some supplies on account. So April 3rd, we're going to debit the supplies for the amount and then credit accounts payable. And then it looks like April 10th, there was some services that were done. So we received $871 cash advance from M. Jason to design a new home. I'm sorry, April 10th, we completed blueprints on a carport and we billed the customer. So April 10th, we already did the carport, so we're going to debit accounts receivable, and it's going to be a service revenue credit for $23.65. 11th, we received $871 cash advance. So because we received it as a cash advance, we're going to debit cash, and then we're going to credit unearned service revenue because it was a cash advance. The next one, April 20th, looks like we received $3,186 cash for services completed those services for S. Melvin on April 20th. So we're going to debit our cash, and then we're going to credit our service revenue because it was a completed service. And the last two, this is where we paid the receptionist that we hired on April 1st. So we're going to debit, because we paid her, salaries and wages expense, and then we're going to credit the cash because that's where it's going to come from. Last one, the accounts payable, we paid $373 to Birmingham account for accounts payable due. So we're paying them for the supply. It looks like the supplies that we paid on account. So we're going to go accounts payable for $373, and it's going to come out of cash. So now we're going to post it to the ledger for the T accounts, the credit and debit. Back up here and follow each line. So for cash, for the very first one, cash is going to come out for April 1st. We look here for all these cash amounts. They're going to come from it's going to come from up here. So April 1st, we debited cash. So we're going to log that in down here. April 2nd, we credited cash. And see right here, cash. We're going to log it in on the very bottom on the next line for the credit. The April 11th is the next one that we stumble upon for cash. And April 11th says we credit cash for $871. And we're going to keep doing that until we get all the way down to the bottom where it says we're going to continue in that pattern. So we're going to go to cash. And the same thing we do with accounts receivable. Accounts receivable only has one, where it was April 10th, where we debited the account. So let's go April 10th. So we debited the account for $23.65. That was for the services that was done, where it says we received the money for cash the 10th, where we completed blueprints. So we got we got paid for those services. So that's kind of, it's back and forth, kind of just going up and down, and I don't have a big enough screen to share everything, but in the end, it's just, back and forth and just putting in the same thing that you have up there, but just in the T ledgers. We're going to do the same thing for when we do the trial balance, but we're going to take from the T from up here. Same idea that we took from the balance sheet here. I'm sorry, from transaction. We took this information and we plugged it in to the T ledgers. So the T ledgers, we're going to plug that same information into a more simple trial balance. So we're going to put in the date of April 30th, which is the end of the month. And the first thing we're going to come to is cash, which is the very first one up on top. We're going to take cash, put this number because that's the balance. So we're going to use, it's going to be a credit to cash for 23,406. Then the next one is going to be accounts payable. And because it's on this side, it's going to be credit for the balance of 1245. I'm sorry, accounts receivable. Did I miss that? I'm sorry, accounts receivable debit for the amount of 2365. And supplies is the same thing, debit for the amount of 1618. And accounts payable is where it was credited for 1246. You see how that goes. So that was accounts payable. The next one would be account unearned, which is going to be credit of 871. And then common stock is also a credit of 22,410. So that just keeps going until and then in the end, you add up all the credits and all the debits, your final answer. If you guys have any questions, you're welcome to email me. I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was not sharing my screen the whole time. So hopefully this helps everybody. And if you guys have, like I said, if you guys have questions, please feel free to give me a call or email me.